And for whatever reason, this woman decided that she wanted to take a patient's foot off, unauthorized, might I add, was told by her nursing administrator, might I add, and she decided to take the foot off to wanted to display at her family shop for taxidermy with a sign that says, "Wear your boots, kids." Welcome in, welcome in. Come tell a friend about your Wakanda RN. I got a lot on my mind, but let's not waste your time and let's get into it. What's up, man? How are y'all doing today? I hope everybody is having a great day. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. And yeah, man, let's get into it. Here at Wakanda's World, we talk about this weird yet wonderful world of healthcare, and big emphasis on weird, because with these topics we have going on today, that's exactly what's going on. So, first subject, man, is there's a nurse who cut off a foot for taxidermy. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is a nurse who decided to cut off a foot for taxidermy. We're not making this up. But guess what, man? So apparently there's a hospice nurse who amputated a patient's foot without permission, and taxidermy is going to escape a jail sentence. So it's really, really disturbing. So just a forewarning. But here we go. A Wisconsin nurse who amputated a patient's frostbitten foot without authorization and planned to use it as a ghoulish display in her family's taxidermy shop was giving a sweetheart plea deal in which she will serve no prison time and pay just $443 in court costs. Mary K. Brown, 40, pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of neglect, abusing a 62-year-old patient at Spring Valley Senior Living and Healthcare Campus in 2022 for the rogue surgical procedure. The patient did pass away a few days later, though there was no definite link that was made between his death and the amputation, according to a criminal complaint. So initially, she was charged with intentionally causing great bodily harm and mayhem and physically abusing an elder person. But the felonies, which could have reached a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison, were dismissed after pleading guilty to lesser charges. So, and the sad thing is, Mary here, she referred to them as mummy feet. I don't know. I don't know. I'd be wondering what goes through people's minds. I really, really, really do. She told nursing home colleagues that she planned to preserve the foot and display it at a taxidermy shop owned by her family as a graphic warning about the dangers of frostbite. I mean, there's other ways you could have done that, but okay. She planned to display a sign with the foot that said, "Wear your boots, kids," according to the charges. Wear your boots, kids. Okay. So basically, an administrator had told the police explicitly, told Miss Mary not to perform the amputation, despite acknowledging a doctor may have done so later, given its extreme condition. And of course, the family member, the sister, was extremely upset when she learned of the unauthorized procedure. "When I found out, I pretty much lost it," and quote, saying her brother had a heart of gold and was a phenomenal artist. So if you're wondering, okay, is she ever going to practice again? If you're ever wondering, like, oh my gosh, she's not facing a jail sentence, she's just walking the streets free. Here we go. Although Brown escaped a jail sentence, she may face disciplinary proceedings from the Wisconsin Board of Nursing and is no longer allowed to work as a caregiver in any capacity. Any capacity. So no matter what. So she cannot practice as a nurse. So we'll see what her board of nursing eventually says, but crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So I don't it amazes me the individuals that end up going to nursing school, passing all the tests. You deal with the hardships of going through a program, and you take your NCLEX, you pay your fees and dues, you do all this stuff just to get your license. And then just like that, you're in a hurry to give it away. Now she's 40. I can't say that she's been doing this for many years. There's people who choose to become a nurse later in life. They have a initial career path and then they choose another career path. So it's hard for me to say that she was doing this for years or whether she was a new nurse. I don't know. But what I can say, we took an oath to do no harm. And for whatever reason, this woman decided that she wanted to take a patient's foot off, unauthorized, might I add, was told by her nursing administrator, might I add, and she decided to take the foot off to display at her family shop for taxidermy with a sign that says "Wear your boots, kids." That is absolutely absurd. That is absolutely absurd. I wish I was making this up, but if you want to read the New York Post, just put it in and you'll find it. Just put it in. Just put it in and you will find it. And yes, y'all, this is a real thing. Now, if you're listening to this, I don't know if you ever had thoughts about taxidermy. Taxidermy is fine. Just don't do it with your patients. Okay. I thought that pretty much goes without saying, but I find out there's a lot of things that I thought went without saying, but apparently it needs to go with saying, apparently. So don't do it. Don't do it. So that's the first crazy thing, the first crazy subject we have today. So another subject we're talking about that a nurse was put into a coma by a patient on Staten Island. Yes. So unfortunately, this did happen, and we're going to talk about it, man. We're going to talk about it. I know a lot of people, I know some people who have seen this, they have discussed this already, but we're going to go ahead and discuss it here. So it was a routine day at the South Beach Psychiatric Center turned disastrous for Peter Schiffman, a dedicated nursing supervisor. On September 17, 2024, a resident's sudden violent outburst resulted in life-altering injuries for Schiffman, who was devoted his career to caring for individuals with mental health issues. Very difficult. Schiffman, 58, sustained 2 skull fractures and experienced 3 strokes that left him in a coma for weeks. Upon waking, he found himself grappling with severe memory loss, chronic pain, permanent cognitive damage, and unable to recall the nightmarish incident. And he doesn't recall what happened. So the patient, what is this? Leondis Jeffrey, 37, was apprehended shortly after the attack and is facing multiple charges, including second-degree assault. Police reports indicate that Jeffrey struck Schiffman, causing him to fall and sustain critical head injuries. Schiffman believes that Jeffrey should have not been placed in a civilian psychiatric facility, expressing concern over the adequacy of care provided by the Office of Mental Health. They have lost focus on helping individuals get back into society, he said. So the incident has taken a heavy toll on Schiffman's family, both emotionally and financially. His daughter launched a GoFundMe campaign to help with the mounting medical expenses and basically saying this can happen to any coworker. If this can happen to someone like my dad, a devoted advocate and union steward, then it can happen to anyone. The campaign has raised over $15,000 with a goal of $35,000. So despite this ordeal, he's faced hurdles in receiving necessary medical treatment through workers' compensations. His requests for vital procedures have been met with repeated denials. He keeps saying he's in pain. He feels abandoned by a system designed to support workers like him, expressing the urgent need for reform. So, and then it goes on to talk about a few other things. You can read this more in detail elsewhere too. So, man, there's a lot. There's a lot. So, I think people are starting to have a heightened awareness on the potential for violence to healthcare workers. And this is a very unfortunate case. So, according to this article, he was very devoted. He was highly spoken of. And this man was attacked on any regular day. Now, a key point that I wanted to point out was that's why it's very important the evaluation process in terms of people that fit your particular facility This gentleman, um, Mr. Schiffman, um, you know, basically said that this patient does not need to be here. He needed to be at another facility. And unfortunately, you bear the consequences of all this. Listen, that evaluation process is so valuable. I mean, you're talking about literally moments between life and death. You're talking about moments that, can decide outcomes very quickly and it's things that could get you sued. Now, the family didn't sue. The family of the victim did not sue because they took the patient anyway. Why did they take the patient who didn't meet criteria? Happens all the time. It happens all the time. I promise you. It happens no matter. Nursing home, assisted living, hospitals in terms of being admitted to med surge when they should be maybe in ICU. Or, you see people admit patients that need to be transferred to a high level of care. They'll take them anyway instead of sending them on the vert. Like, it happens all the time, all day, every day here in the United States. It happens. And you see, this is the result. We're talking about skull fractures, multiple seizures, things like that. And fortunately, this gentleman was able to wake up. So I'm happy for that, but I'm just pointing that out. Y'all, this is a big flaw within our healthcare system. Big flaw. The evaluation process is so valuable. You need to properly evaluate your patients if you are a manager. Please do not take patients for the sake of just taking patients. You need to see if they are a good fit, no matter where you are. No matter where you are, no matter what department you're in, you need to evaluate to see if they are a good fit for your facility. So that's that. Another point about this story, which is really, really tragic, and if you're listening, I like to hear your story too. Workman's comp that was denied. So you would think this gentleman will qualify for workman's comp based upon what happened. But what happens? If you have talked to somebody or you've been through it personally, sometimes you got to jump through all kind of hoops just to get workman's comp. It is very difficult to get workman's comp for a lot of individuals. And then not only that, I mean, there's certain procedures that he needs and he's not able to get those because of his claims were denied. That's terrible. That is very, very sad, very, very tragic. And that makes me, I'm going to touch on another subject too, because this is all very important about another subject I want to bring up later on in this episode. So, but it sounds like his daughter was able to raise a GoFundMe and they're getting closer towards their goal. So I'm happy in that regard, but the system should not have failed him. I mean, and that feeling of abandonment, when you're going through hard times, you don't want to feel abandoned. He feels abandoned by the system. And that is terrible. He should not feel that way. But unfortunately, this is where we're at in nursing, healthcare. This is where we're at least in America. So, you know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments what you think. What you think below, man, because that is absurd. That is very, very absurd. Okay. So we're gonna shift gears. So I saw a new grad recently on social media. And he talked about, so this is, if you're a new grad, if you're new to nursing, this is for you. And if it's not, then let's just join along, okay? So this new grad asked a question about 12-hour shifts. He asked, how do you deal with 12-hour shifts? Am I supposed to feel the way that I felt? He says, because I feel like, he goes on, he's talking about, he passed pills, but did he really pass pills? Things happened last night, but did they happen? So, it sounded like he worked night shift, and that was his first 3 set of 12s. He did 3 12-hour shifts in a row, and then at the end of the video, he talks about how he's going to sleep for the next 36 hours. So, I will say that when I first did night shift, I remember the very first time I did night shift, I was asked to stay over. I worked 311 shift, and they were desperate for help. And they asked could I stay over, and I said yes, but the stipulation was going to have the day off because I was just like I'm not coming in the next day. And I will tell you what, man, that delirium kicks in. I mean, you can only do so much caffeine. You can only do so much caffeine. Um, delirium was real, and then that sleep after you get off working night shift, I mean, it is something. I mean, you will just be knocked out when you first do night shift. And that's how I remember. Now, I remember when I first went to work med surge and I did night shift 12s. Eventually you get as used to it as you possibly can because your body, prefers to sleep at night compared to during the day. You get used to napping and you compensate the best way you can. But it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Not for everybody. My advice for those who are working 12-hour shifts, especially night shift, your body's gonna want to snack, to eat, to maintain, the energy and staying up late. Find you some healthy snacks. Find you some healthy snacks because one thing people can do while they work a night shift, they can pick up weight because they're used to eating and eating, eating and eating. You need to find you like some healthy nuts, some healthy fruits as well. Um, find you some supplements, some vitamin supplements as well. Keep your keep your try to keep up as best you can with your own personal health because it can get out of hand very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Especially if you don't do like your own self-scheduling and your schedule's in the hand of a manager. I mean, you could work 6 12s in a 7-day period and not get a lick of overtime. Like, especially as a new grad, like they will take advantage of you and have you working some crazy shifts. Um, so that's my advice. I mean, in terms of the caffeine, I mean, be very, very careful. Be very, very careful on caffeine intake because I've worked with nurses that have had palpitations and they developed some cardiac problems because I started drinking energy drinks and things like that. So, whatever you drink, please drink in moderation. But I would say go towards finding food that can provide you energy more so than energy drinks or caffeinated beverages if possible. If you need to, try to, work your way. Don't start off strong. Like don't get like a Celsius that has 200 milligrams of caffeine, and then 3 hours later you're gonna drink another Celsius, 400 milligrams of caffeine. You need stuff that has caffeine, um, low caffeine intake, and just if you have to work your way up, that's one thing, but try to keep it as low as possible because you can pick up some really nasty habits working night shift for sure. If you have problems sleeping, a good soundboard, um, you know, water sounds, beach sounds, wind sounds. Some people like the sound of wind wind chimes. Get you a good soundboard, a good sound system that can have those sounds and help promote sleep. Because sometimes some days it's hard. Sometimes you will get off and it's hard for you to go to sleep. Um, but you just got to find what works best for you. Some people, when they have that day off, they literally stay up all day, then they sleep at night. Some people take a short nap and then they can sleep at night. So you just got to find what works best for you. So those are a few things I would give. If you work night shift, just give some advice below. I'd love to share it with that young man as well. Okay. So we're getting towards the silly side of this weird yet wonderful world of healthcare. Wonderful world. So recently, I saw a video on social media, right, big old social media, and it was nurses that were nursing content creators that you know did like a little TikTok video, and at the beginning of the video, there's a nurse that comes out of what looks like a morgue. Now, upon this recording, that video has 10 million views. 10 million. So the mission was accomplished. How far will people go to make content? I think by now, if you have paid attention to any form of content creation or seen people make content, you've seen people basically stretch the limits of the imagination when it comes to what type of content they're willing to make. People will offend cultures. They'll break boundaries. They'll cross the line. They'll, or some of them will hit the gray area, or people do all kind of things just for views. And so, you know, um, me personally, different cultures, you don't mess with the deceased in any way. You don't play around with the deceased in any way. Now, some people will say, now the counter argument I've seen people will say it is a set. Like it wasn't a real morgue, it was a set. And, my thing is, for me personally, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Now, if somebody said they were acting and, they were playing the part of a dead body, that's different. I mean, we've seen movies where people, they play the body, but this isn't what happened. We had somebody doing like a sing and dance type thing, and they're coming out of the morgue. Whatever your stance is, or whatever your stance is. But for me, I thought it was crazy. I mean, it's like this is crazy. This is bizarre. God, I talked about it, but at the same time, there's people taking up for. You're more than welcome to. If you want to take up for, it was young female. Don't know how old, but young enough. I just wouldn't think. As somebody who has seen countless bodies within my healthcare career, and somebody's talked to multiple patients' family members, um, and have literally watched the funeral home take the patient away, and where they're going. I can't do that. I can't do that. I could never do that because I know what that represents. And sometimes things hit different. If you have ever watched, like, for me, I've watched veterans that were covered up with the American flag, and the funeral home picks them up, and the flag is put over them. For me, it's very, very touching. It's very, very touching. And they're going into the morgue that way. I can't. I just can't. People. I think people who are insensitive towards it, saying it's a set or it's a joke, or I don't think you've really experienced situations like that. I don't think you really have experienced death and the appreciation of death and what it is and what it represents. I don't think you've actually experienced that, but to each their own, I suppose. But for me, there's certain things when it comes to content. We're just going too far. Okay, so let me know in the comments what you think, right? And then, so there was something else I had posted about recently is what are some of the reasons why people leave healthcare? Now, this may be its own separate podcast. This may be its own separate thing. We're going to talk about it very, very briefly. And those people listening to this who are in healthcare, thinking about healthcare, or maybe currently in healthcare, or maybe they're a family member somewhere, right? You fall somewhere on this spectrum. So the first reason, the most common reason that I could gather, the number one reason why people want to leave healthcare is staffing. Doesn't matter if you're long-term care, doesn't matter if you're med surg, doesn't matter if you're ER, critical care, doesn't matter where you are. Staffing seems to be a problem. It's because we don't have safe nursing, nurse to patient ratios. We just don't have it. If we had that throughout all the United States, there'd be a lot less problems. Family. Your family member will be taken care of better if there's proper staff. So my new grads, you wouldn't be as stressed out if you had proper staff. My senior nurses, you wouldn't be as burnt out if you had proper staff. You had proper staffing. So it's a problem throughout. This isn't a new thing. It's not, nothing new under the sun, but this is a consistent thing that has been a problem. So that is the number one reason why people want to leave. Another common reason I see people say is money. And I will briefly talk about this. Now, I think some people misunderstood. I think people really got into nurses' business during COVID. And if you know, you know. So people really they got to peer into what some few nurses were making during the pandemic. Handing out that COVID relief money, paying people all kind of stuff, all kind of pay just to come work during the pandemic. And some people thought, that's the norm. And it was nowhere near the norm. And when it come to find out, we had doctors that were angry that a nurse was making more than a doctor. Now, I'm not here to argue schooling. I'm not here to argue responsibilities. All I'm saying is you got to be more mad at that facility than the individual, because you're comparing a doctor who's staff, and maybe they're a resident, maybe they're new. I don't know how long they've been there, but that's not an everyday thing where nurses are making more than doctors. Let's just clear that out there. Let's just clear the air right there. But that was a thing for a little bit during COVID. So, but people were thinking like, oh, nurses make a lot of money. I'm like, no, they do not. Nurses do not make good enough money. They not like they should, not like they should. So let's get that out the way. And then the top end nurses may be making decent money, but that is no, nurses aren't paid enough. So money was a common factor. All right, let's talk about another reason why, and I know this one right here is going to be very controversial, is people said family members. Now, why is that? Why is that? There's somebody probably not in healthcare listening to this, they're thinking, what do I got to do with it? Well, sometimes, let's just talk about it. Let's be honest here. Sometimes you guys can be extremely selfish, and I get it. You want your mima, your papa, your son, your daughter. You want them to have the utmost care, and you want them to be attended to. As soon as you hit the call light, you want staff to be right there. And guess what? They're hurting. They're stressed out. So that stresses the family member out. They don't want to see their loved ones in pain. They don't want to see their loved ones sick, and they want you to be a miracle worker. When that nurse has somebody else who has respiratory problems and they have to call a rapid, you got another patient who's having a reaction to blood. You got somebody else that's having continuous bladder irrigation, or you got somebody else who literally just has somebody pass away, and you're mad because your mima or papa ain't getting a sandwich, or he's thirsty, and you're wondering, where is everybody? I mean, I think if you guys would take the time, it would really, really help if you guys would have a little bit of compassion and do a little bit of research on what actually goes on. Actually, if you would take the time to actually talk, go call during the day, go call the manager. Say, I want to speak to the manager. Can you give me an understanding of everything that goes on? Because it seems like care takes it takes forever for somebody to reach the call light. Well, call the CEO. Let them know. I've been saying this for a while. Family members, you need to let these people know. And then if they're honest, if you talk to the nurse, they'll say it's staffing. Family members, the best thing you could do is tell the manager face to face, or talk to the CEO face to face and say, can you get these people more help? That's the best thing you can do. Tell them, like, family, tell them we need more help. They need more help. If they get more help, my loved one will be taken care of. Simple as that. Simple as that. Entitled patients. There's some patients, not all, of course. There's some patients who, which is some of the same problems as a family member, think that they are the only one. They can literally hear down the hallway somebody screaming and yelling. They can literally hear the bells and whistles. They can hear a whole team running down with a crash cart. And yet, they are the only one. You can give them every reason in the world, they're still not going to listen to you, because you should have been right then and there. We got to do better. We have to do better. So we can't have that. So if you're a patient, please exercise better patience. Please. It goes a long way. It really, really does. It really does go a long way. Big time. Another reason, and speaking of managers, toxic work environments. You got managers that enable bad employees, don't correct behavior whatsoever. Somebody's late all the time, they let them stay late, or they lack professionalism and don't address it, don't do anything, don't do any corrective action, or they let the work environment, they let it be negative, or they let cliques hang around, or mean girls, they let them hang around, and it brings the whole entire work environment down, brings the whole team down. So managers, some of y'all need to be taking accountability, because the work environment could definitely be better if you wanted it to. But all these reasons right here, Those are just some of the reasons why people leave healthcare. It's not all. These are just some. So the thing is, if we want healthcare to be a better place, we want healthcare to be in a better spot, all these things need to be addressed. All of them. And it takes the nurses that are there, it takes management, it takes your CEOs of hospitals, it takes the patients themselves, it takes the family members, it takes everybody involved to make this a better process. It takes everybody to make it a better process. And what will really help if people will be more understanding of one another. If people will actually communicate, if people will actually have a deeper understanding and a little bit of patience and a little bit of grace, it would go a long, long way. It really would. But y'all have to let me know. What do y'all think? What do you think about all these topics? What do you think about everything that we went over in today's episode? I really like to know. I mean, we talked about, you know, a woman wanting to cut off a foot for taxidermy. I mean, we're talking about, a nurse that's disappointed with the system in terms of what happened with him in Staten Island with another psychotic patient. I mean, we're talking about advice for 12-hour shifts. We're talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like reasons why people leave healthcare. Y'all have to let me know in the comments below what you think about this entire episode. Okay. But thank you for tuning in with your Wakanda RN. If you enjoyed the episode, please give me a like, a follow. You know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments below what you think. You can always donate to the channel. It goes a long way. But I love you guys. I hope you have a blessed day wherever you listen to, wherever you're at. And I am out.